From the BBC World Service, in association with ABC and Akashvani, this is Stumped.
Hello and welcome to Stumped, your intercontinental hit of news, features and debate from the quirky world of cricket. I'm Eleanor Oldroyd in a cold and icy London, but our hearts are warmed, or at least my heart is warmed, by the prospect of facing the two teams in the next 12 months from an England point of view that are represented by my esteemed colleagues here on Stumped today.
Nice to see you, Ellie. Look forward to getting a little bit of sun for you next summer. Although today we had England against the Governor-General's 11 in the lead up to the Women's Ashes. And sadly, Sydney proved that it is, after Manchester, one of the wettest places on the planet, and they didn't play. Anyway, I'm sure they will at some point when they find a dry venue. And it's Jim Maxwell for the ABC. I'm still enjoying. It's only water here, but it could be something stronger because the Border Gavaskar Trophy is Australia's!
Yes, it is, emphatically. Hello, everybody. Ellie, welcome. A little bit of trivia to begin with. You think Sydney's wet or wherever else, Manchester, but the wettest place on earth was Cherrapunji and still happens to be a place in the northeast of India. So there's plenty of rain here too. Although it's lovely here in Bangalore. I've returned after a quick visit to Raipur, the capital of one of the new states of India, Chhattisgarh, where there was a player draft for yet another Legends League, which, by the way, interestingly, is a 90-ball match. How about that? So they've discovered their own little niche. It's a team 90. Anyway, and of course, we're dealing with the media aftermath of everything else that went down in the BGT, which wasn't too pleasing for India.
Coming up, we'll preview the Women's Ashes with former England player Anya Shrubsole. But first, big changes could be coming to the World Test Championship in 2027, with it being reported that the ICC are looking to make it into a two-tiered competition, which would lead to the biggest nations playing each other more often. The plans could see India, Australia, England, South Africa, Sri Lanka, New Zealand and Pakistan in Tier 1, while the second tier will be made up of Bangladesh, West Indies, Ireland, Afghanistan and Zimbabwe, making it a 7-5 split across the divisions. Well, it's fair to say that the rumoured new structure has stirred up some strong opinions. The legendary former West Indies captain Clive Lloyd is not a fan of the idea. He said it must be stopped now. While in March last year, the Ireland national selector Andrew White told Stumped they would support a two-tier idea. Well, I mean, Jim, this idea of a two-tier championship first emerged in the Australian publication, the Melbourne Age. So what's the reaction been like to these proposals in Australia?
We've got some good sniffer dogs in the media here, and it just depends who you're talking to. And it's interesting to hear what Andrew White said. Is he anticipating promotion and relegation or just a two-tier system? We don't know, and I think until we know the actual detail, it's hard to nail this, but it looks like an exercise in greed amongst the top three nations in playing cricket to me, and I'm not surprised. It's all about the money, and that's the problem for cricket now. You've got, on one hand, bilateral relationships and how to make them work in conflict with more and more T20 cricket, or 90 ball or 100 ball or whatever it damn well might be. But that's the problem for the game. So I don't know how you fit it all in, but I just think really it's basically it's an exercise in greed, and Australia's very much a party to that. They have not had Bangladesh playing here for 15 years now, and they're unlikely to because television stations don't want them. No one's going to watch Bangladesh. That's what they think. So I'm afraid it's a direction that is a bit like an avalanche. It's going to be hard to stop it. And I'm sure, unfortunately for those other nations, including the West Indies, if it comes to a split, they're going to be pushed to one side. So I don't like it, but that's the world we're in, I'm afraid.
Well, I mean, Chara, you were talking about 90-ball cricket at the top of the show. And the influence of franchise leagues is huge, isn't it now? And the players want to play in them. So is this a kind of reaction to the growing influence of franchise leagues?
Well, yes, of course. But, the more fundamental question is, where is Test cricket going? And on one hand, it seems that the ICC and a few of the top nations are very happy to continue focusing on Test match cricket. There's always this talk about, that's the real Test and so on and so forth. But whether you like it or not, just a few test matches do garner a fair amount of visibility and attention, but the rest don't. So, let's not flog something that is likely to, I hesitate from saying disappear over time. The test match system is broke because of the lack of time. Now, if there was more time in a year or more than 30 days in a month, which there are not, then we can all continue to play test match cricket very happily. But there isn't. I think the cricketers of the world are running pretty ragged already anyway because of lots of white ball cricket particularly, and perhaps domestic assignments and so much more. And if there isn't enough time to continue playing test match cricket regularly amongst most of the nations, that's why there's talk of a split. But I think it works negatively. I agree with Clive, and Jim, you say money, I say time as well, and standards, and the whole concept of taking the game forward. We can't break it up, isolate it, shatter it, and then expect others to also improve. It just is not going to happen. So are we dooming test match cricket by saying that, okay, the elite play, make money, have a good time, and the rest, well, we don't really care?
And it does dilute it in some ways, doesn't it? If you've got great products like the Border Gavaskar Trophy, you've got the Ashes later this year, as we've said, down under, Jim. But we remember a period, wasn't there, in kind of the mid-2010s when there were 3 Ashes series pretty much back to back. And it just felt like overkill, really. Is that the great danger here?
Well, it is. And as I say, I don't know how you're going to change the direction of that. It just seems to be pulling so strongly towards the influence of television in particular these days, who want big audiences to make more money from what they're doing and so on. So even though the India-Australia series here has been massively popular, do we really want India here every second year? Well, I suppose the people that are promoting this idea are saying yes. We don't want New Zealand or the West Indies or anyone else other than really England or India in terms of the draw power that they attract. But I think there's a greater responsibility here for the ICC, if it's continued to be a relevant force in the game, to foster the game beyond just playing white ball cricket, which there'll be more of for the lower place nations in the championship. I suppose that will be their means to an end of survival. So I don't know how you do it in a perfect world, and we've already got the situation where you could argue that by default somehow South Africa have managed to find a way to the final of the WTC, which may well make the whole concept of it redundant, given the fact that they've very rarely paid more than lip service to the whole idea of being part of it, even having second 11s playing in some series. But they managed to contrive a way of getting there. Not their fault, that's just the system. So from here on, it does look more and more like we're going to see the top 3 to 6 nations playing Test cricket regularly, and the rest can go off and play white ball cricket.
I think we all know that the structure of the WTC is a very long way from perfect, to say the least. And I'm not just saying that because England are not there and India are not there. But I mean, we had a similar idea floated in 2016, didn't we, Charu? And then at the time, the BCCI came out against it. They said they wanted to protect the smaller nations, and we've seen Ravi Shastri among those being in favour of it this week. So do you feel that actually opinions have changed in the intervening 9 years?
Well, I'd like to see the same nobility of thought that was expressed in 2016, where India seemed to be in favor of a more collective approach, more inclusive approach of all the nations so that cricket could prosper globally. Now, I'm afraid it does seem that commercial reasons, whether led by television or the rest of the sponsors, seem to be taking over. And that is why the shift. So is it just commercially successful formulas that must progress, or is it the game that must spread? And, of course, we talked some decades ago, if India, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, and a few other nations had not been allowed to play with the bigger nations consistently over the years, they would never become the powerhouses they are now, or the better teams they are now. So there are cases in point where perhaps Afghanistan or so many of the other nations, maybe some of the smaller nations as well, could rise to becoming, well, not superpowers, but much better at the game, which will give hope to the next tier as well of those countries playing. And that's how a game benefits and prospers. I mean, how long do we want cricket to be a 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 nation game? And now, of course, let's talk about Olympics as well in 2028. So even though it's a white ball format, but surely ICC interest should be to grow the game rather than just the commerce surrounding the top 3 or 4 nations. And if India is going to follow that now, because they have a very significant presence in the ICC, then it's a losing battle.
Well, next on Stumped, the Women's Ashes begin in Sydney this week, weather permitting. And what a series we have in prospect. Australia are the current holders after a drawn series in 2023, and England have not won on foreign soil in over a decade. In 2014, England's Anya Shrubsole was the leading wicket taker for the tourists, and she's won 2 Ashes series. And she joins us now on Stumped. Hi, Anya.
Hi, good morning.
How much are you looking forward to this series? Will it be competitive? Could it be as close as it was last time?
Certainly hope so. I think it's set up really nicely. I think 2 teams who, I guess especially coming off the T20 World Cup, will feel like they're a little bit bruised, a little bit battered, and got some things to prove. So I think it's set up to be a brilliant series.
I mean, that's the thing to remember, isn't it? That Australia failed to defend their title, their T20 World Cup. England really, underperformed. I think they would say that as well. So I suppose it's quite hard to know which team is going to bounce back better.
Yeah, definitely. What you do know, I guess the only thing you do know, is that both teams will be desperate to bounce back. England have had a good series against South Africa recently, Australia a good series against New Zealand. So both teams are shaping up pretty well, both with a point to prove. England will be desperate to win the Ashes back, and Australia will be desperate to keep them and win them. I've definitely seen a few things about how it felt a little bit bittersweet in England in 2023 because it ended up being a drawn series and all of that sort of stuff. So I think when you put all of that together, plus 2 high quality teams, we could be in for a cracker.
So do England have a bit more of an edge with the white ball than the red ball? How would you contrast that?
I don't know, to be honest. Like, if you look at the last Ashes series, and obviously England won those two white ball series, whether that's enough to say that they've got an edge over Australia, I think is yet to be seen. I think no one has an edge over Australia in their backyard, to be honest with you.
Well, Anya, all things considered, the growth of white ball cricket, I believe that both Ash Gardner and Tammy Beaumont have said that we should be playing more test matches. But do you think that moment is over, and really the whole world, especially women's cricket as it grows now fabulously, is also looking more towards white ball? Or do you want to sort of say, no, test matches it is, and we should be playing many more in every series?
That's for people way above my pay grade, if I'm being totally honest. I think what you have seen over the last couple of years is an increase in the number of series that mirror the kind of Ashes series, so 1 test, 3 ODIs, 3 T20s, and I think that's quite a good setup. But I do believe it kind of needs to go one way or the other. Maybe more nations need to play Test match cricket like that, or possibly not at all. But I think they're talking specifically about the Ashes, and I can really see the merits of a 3 test series. But obviously everything in the world is a business. That makes tours longer, that makes costs more, all of that sort of stuff. That's the things I guess people are balancing up. I speak for myself, I loved playing Test cricket, maybe because it was so rare. They were so special to play in. And what you get, which you see in the men's game over a 3-match series, a 5-match series, is you see those real battles coming out. You get an opener who keeps getting out to the opening bowler, or how do they combat that? So you lose that in the women's game without having kind of multiple Test match series. So I can see all of the arguments. Luckily, I'm not someone who has to make any decision about what happens and what doesn't happen. I can just watch from afar and go, interesting. I can't see a multi-test match series happening outside of the Ashes for a long time. And I think the kind of future tours program's set for the next little while. So I don't think it will happen soon, but it would definitely be an interesting development.
You keep saying this is above my pay grade, Anya, but you're a woman of influence these days, because you've taken over as the chair of the Women's Players and Fixtures Subcommittee at the MCC. That's the Marylebone Cricket Club, and not the Melbourne Cricket Club, of course. Can you tell us a bit more about what that entails, what that role involves, and what your plans are?
Yeah, hugely honoured to take over from Laura McLeod, who was Laura Newton, who used to play for England. She did the role for 6 years. I guess in a kind of nutshell, it's chairing the committee that looks into all of the kind of things to do with women's cricket at the MCC. So obviously, at the moment, trying to have a really big drive into getting more female playing members, and then just lots of other stuff that goes into that. And that also feeds into the cricket committee on the MCC, which I also now sit on as well. So I'm really honoured. It's something really exciting that I hope I can have a bit of a impact over the few years that I'm there. I'm just kind of rapidly getting up to speed at the minute with the MCC and how it all works and all of that sort of stuff. But yeah, the big thing at the moment is we're really working out how can we drive that kind of women's playing membership within the MCC, getting it out there a bit more, hopefully getting it more in the kind of public eye and getting women thinking actually that would be an amazing thing to be involved in.
Well, finally on Stumped, Australia ended a 10-year wait to win the Border Gavaskar Trophy as they beat India by 6 wickets in the final test match of the series in Sydney. And the victory, as we've said, also means that Australia will now play South Africa in the World Test Championship final at Lord's on June the 11th. I mean, Jim, you were there at the SCG. And what were your thoughts on that final test match? There were lots of spicy elements, weren't there, in that test match, as there were throughout the series, really. But to win the trophy back after losing the first match back in Perth was quite something for Australia.
Well, it could easily have been 2-2. That was a very sporting pitch. I've never seen one quite like it in all my experience of watching cricket at the SCG, certainly for a test match. And I would argue that it was probably substandard. I think Usman Khawaja called it a stinker. And without Bumrah in the last innings of the match, India were clearly undermanned. I mean, he was 99% of their bowling in the series. And without him, Australia took some relish in attacking that smallish total to win the game in the end. He was a huge factor in the series. And the Australians were mighty relieved that he wasn't there when it mattered. It could have been a tie. Anything could have happened had Bumrah been bowling. But he unfortunately ran out of wheels, gas, whatever. A stunning series, 32 wickets, and he was clearly the standout. So it was an outstanding series. There was so much good cricket played. And alas for India, it wasn't played by the people that could have contributed significantly to a win. Kohli and their captain Rohit Sharma, who didn't play, was clearly, I would have said, dropped for the last game, but they didn't use that word. They said rest. Bit of a euphemism there. However, they competed. They won the first test, and the fact that Australia came back after losing that test and won the series was full credit to them. And they don't lose very often under Pat Cummins, that's for sure.
Yeah, so Australia evolving, England evolving as well. I mean, you've hinted at this, Charu, that India are going to have to evolve. You know, they've lost some key players and are likely to lose some key players. Who are the new names that you think we might see over here in the English summer? And will Gautam Gambhir still be leading them?
Well, there's a long line for every position in India because the game's pretty robust, and which is why, of course, there's a call because the youngsters are hungry and sometimes they get passed over at the wrong time and don't get blooded, and then they kind of sort of lose motivation just a bit. About Gautam Gambhir, though, there's been a lot of statistical reviewing that he hasn't done very well for India at all, as we know. I think the bigger blow was to lose to New Zealand, zip 3 in India, which, of course, you know, I mean, was nobody could have imagined that or predicted it. Australia are always going to be tough opposition in Australia, so I suppose it'll be taken a little more liberally. But nobody yet is saying, get rid of Gautam Gambhir. But there's murmurings going on saying, well, is he the right person for especially the long-form game? And should, therefore, India have two coaches? And Gautam Gambhir's recent coaching exploits are all in, say, T20 or the IPL. And there, too, he's actually a mentor, not quite a chief coach or whatever. So there could possibly be a division if Gautam Gambhir starts feeling the heat. He might suggest that himself, saying, well, all right, I'll look after white ball cricket because that's much more what I've been doing for the past few years. And somebody else can can wear this thorny crown of looking after India in test matches. But for the moment, I've got to admit, there isn't a serious call for his early removal.
Well, that's all we've got time for on this week's Stumped. My thanks to Jim Maxwell, Charu Sharma, and of course to you for listening. We'll speak to you next week. Goodbye.